Steve will be talking about how you make your office paperless now. We will take questions at the end of this 16-minute content, and if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in the pane on the right of your screen in the GoToWebinar pane, and we will answer all of those. With that, I'll turn it over to Mark and Steve.
All right, thank you, Tricia, and we're super excited to be talking about the paperless office today. I know that Mark and I have been kind of the poster children here at Nex-Tech to bring paperless here, and we're a technology company, but to get us started off, we thought that we should probably talk about the devices that you have to have just to make this work. And some of these devices that we're talking about are, you have to have PCs, of course, something that people can use to view their files. You have to have storage, whether it be a NAS or a server or something online, cloud, whatnot. And you have to have something to turn the paper into the digital images. So this is kind of one-on-one stuff, but if you don't have that, you can't get started.
Yeah, Stephen, in addition to those things that you kind of have to have, we came up with some other items that, really are optional or recommended items. And, starting out with the cell phone, obviously looking at, a tablet and those types of devices, whether it's iOS, Windows, Android, you got to have something to take your notes on. You got to have something that, if you're having a board meeting or a conference room meeting or something like that, that you can take that tablet and have those files with you, the agenda, the attachments, everything that goes along with that. Really nice to have a tablet for those uses. The smartphone, most everybody has a smartphone anymore, but one of the things we'll tie into here on the next slide is what goes into that. But having that device, everything's right there at your fingertips, readily available, so you can access it basically from anywhere in the world. So going into those apps and what those software and things are, Evernote, OneNote, you got to have a note app. What it really does is it ties those notes from a PC, a tablet, a phone. Everything syncs seamlessly through all those devices. So no matter what you're doing, where you're at, which device you have, it's all interconnected. And really, OneNote, Evernote, I know I'm throwing out two. There's tons of them out there. Just pick one, find the one you like the best, and use that one. There's not a whole lot that's better with this or that. Just pick the one that you like and utilize that. I also put the sticky note on there. The sticky note app that comes with Windows does a great job. So if you get a phone call, you got to take a note, write it down. You don't have those laying all over your desk. They're right there on your desktop. When you finish that task, delete it, move it, whatever you need to do. Works very great. And also another one is faxing. That's always a big thing in the office is faxing. There's a lot of tools out there with fax servers, fax finders, those types of things. So you can fax from your desktop. If you got a document, you can fax it out. It just shows up like a printer. Incoming faxes come in via email, so you don't have to mess with paper. And the last thing is linked. Works really great, so you're not passing notes and things around the office. You can instantly chat to anyone in the office. You can connect with people outside of the office, those types of things. So you really get that seamless communication without having to use all that paper.
Now, Mark, a couple things, if folks haven't followed us all this time, is now OneNote is entirely free, right?
Yes, OneNote's entirely free. The apps are free in all the app stores. Plus, with Windows 8, it comes on there as well.
And then the sticky note program you talked about is just built into Windows 8. I think it's even built into Windows 7.
It is. It's built into both applications. Just go into your start menu, into the accessories, and it's right there.
So, yeah, no extra things to buy, nothing to have to worry about there.
Correct.
And then, so I took a couple pictures of my desk. These are a couple of the main desk there on the left, and then some of my file folder locations that are pretty much empty. I think that everybody wants to know, where do you get started with on this? And I think the first place to do is find somebody in the office that's going to kind of evangelize this whole process of paperless. They're going to own it. They're going to be the poster child of the paperless office, and they're going to get rid of all the paper. And I think that starts with cleaning out your desk.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Take all the paper, get rid of the paper, scan it in, record it digitally, and then get rid of it, whether you shred it, whatever you choose to do with it. The next thing that I always thought you would do is reduce the number of printers that you're going to have there in the office, because if printers are everywhere, people are going to want to use them. But if people don't have as many printers on their desk, they're not going to be as tempted to use those printers, so therefore they're going to reduce the amount of paper. And then challenge people to have kind of the digital meeting, no paper allowed, right? Just go strictly with your digital devices, your tablets, whatnot, and use those items. Now, recently I've come up with the new term. I'm going to own this one. I'm not sure if anybody else has, but the Digital Hoarder. I always recognize these people by all the icons there on their desktop. They have this whole flood of stuff, and it's pretty messy. And how do you get around? There's no, where's everything at? And so, Mark, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about how to organize some of these things. And I took a picture of my desktop. I know that you've learned some different things in this.
Right.
The first thing I learned, I'm going to give you my tip and trick here, is I create kind of archive folders every year. So in 1st January, I kind of archive everything that I may not be using, projects that are kind of in the past, budgets, things like that. So they're all in the archive folder, still accessible to me, but it doesn't mess up my day-to-day file usage.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that, obviously organization is going to be a big part of going paperless is the ease of finding the information that you're looking for. One of the terms I always, talk with Steve about when you're doing your file structure, it's the width of the structure and the depth of the structure. So the width meaning, once you click on My Documents, how many folders wide are there? Do you have, 100, 1,000 folders, broken down into different categories, those types of things of how your organization is, plus, the depth. So maybe you have 10 folders, wide, but you can drill down deep into those. So if you have, a folder for meetings, a folder for, client or customer information, a folder for, payroll or, those types of things. So you really want to look at the width of that structure to make sure you have enough folders wide, and then, break it down into the depth and subfolder those out. So when you're going to look for that information, it's very easy. You can go to a topic, a subtopic within that, and then drill down from there. So that's really what we're talking about from a digital organization.
And I know that was the one thing I feel like I made the biggest mistake starting out many years ago, is I had so many folders. I was putting stuff in duplicate folders, couldn't find it. So as you can tell here, if you look under my OneDrive note folder there, I have 12 core folders that are kind of my key, and they break down from there. So I simplified it.
I think one of the things, too, with that as well is find a starting place and don't be afraid to change it. It might work for a year or 2 or 5 years, and then you figure out, it may work better or differently, and that's okay. Go ahead and make those changes and find a system that works for you.
So I have to admit, Mark, right, the one place I couldn't go paperless until recently was my books. I liked the touch of the books. It used to be an airplane thing, right? You get on the airplane, you could read your book, you read your magazine. But now they've eliminated that obstacle for me, so I can go entirely digital. But I started having some conversation with you, Mark, that you were telling me about how you can bookmark things. I started seeing your Facebook posts, some great quotes out of books. So tell us a little bit why you use Kindle and how you have, well, quite frankly, converted me into using it. And I don't want to suggest Kindle's the only app. I think they're the leader.
Right, yeah, definitely, there's Kindle, there's Nook, there's a lot of apps out there. But one of the things that I think was funny where Steve kind of saw the light was we were talking about a book that we both had read, and he had it with him here at the office, and he was flipping through. He had all these pages that were earmarked, and he was flipping through trying to find a specific quote. I pulled out my phone, went to the app. Within the app, you can highlight text that you want to save. So I went to my highlights, found the quote in a matter of 10 seconds, and Steve was still paging through. So I think that was one of the things that sold him on that. But that's one of the advantages I love. So I can go back to any book I had read, and I could pull those quotes up basically just by highlights and those types of things. So if I want to use that information later, it's pretty easy to find. Another one that I really like with the app is you don't need connectivity for it. When you purchase the book and download it, you could download it to specific devices. So if you're on an airplane, you put it in airplane mode, it's local and native to that device. So you don't have to have the connectivity, and it's seamless across multiple devices. So if I'm on the plane, I can start reading a book on my phone. When I get to where I'm going, maybe a hotel or a meeting or whatever it is, I can get my tablet out. I can launch the app on there, pick up right where I left off, and continue on. So it's seamless across all those devices.
I really found that to be beneficial. And then the last thing that I really like is I had PDFs of white papers of different things that I downloaded, yet I never had a chance to read them, whatnot. I learned that I can email my Kindle address. So it has its own email address. It's just in your Amazon account. And so I can read that on my Kindle, on my tablet, on my PC, on my phone, on any device. And that was really beneficial. And I think, like you said, the bookmarks following me from device to device. I have so many devices now that it's great to kind of follow with that.
Yes. And moving on, another thing that I really found here just recently is Passbook. Haven't used it a whole lot, but here just this last week, really found a lot of key uses for it. And what's nice about Passbook, I use it on iOS, but I'm sure it's available on other platforms as well, is, every time you go to a store, they've got a rewards card now, or they've got, you need tickets for an event, or whatever it is, airline ticket. Passbook really helps manage all of those, whether it's paper ticket, a plastic rewards card. You can download those apps within Passbook. They have apps that tie into that, and the example I'll use is tickets for a Royals game or a baseball game. Went online, ordered my tickets. They sent me an email confirmation. Basically, you can click on the link, download the tickets to your Passbook, show up to the stadium with your phone. You launch the app, the ballpark app. They scan your barcode right on your phone, and you're done. So, that's a great tool. I know Starbucks has an app for their rewards cards, Home Depot, Target. There's tons of them out there. So instead of having a wallet full of rewards cards or, the keychain with 20 different, barcode scanners on them, download the app, sync it to your account, and the barcode's right there. So you just show them your phone, they scan it, and you're done. It's a really great tool.
So I got to admit, my boss, my old boss, he was a paper guy. He had to have paper. You walk into his office, he has paper laying everywhere. And I was talking to him this morning. I told him I was going to kind of make fun of him during our webcast here, and I said, and he made this quote, "I'm just killing trees," which is totally true for him. So how do you either deal with those folks or convert them to more digital format was one of the questions that we had. And so first thing is that when he handed me a piece of paper, I would take my scan app, scan it, hand him back the piece of paper. That way he's realizing that I have no value for him printing that for me to just simply hand it back to him. So he could either email it to me or send it in a shared folder, whatever that worked out best. So that definitely helped. A lot of times, instead of me printing that information for him to present in a weekly meeting or whatnot, I just send the email, put it in the shared folder, and say, well, it's out there available to you digitally. Go get it there. I'm not going to print it for him, so then I'm facilitating his destruction of trees.
Yep.
And then I was looking in his office, and he has 2 huge file folders with multi-drawers. One's in his desk full of papers, a whole structure of these notebooks that he's put in his reading notebooks, and eventually he's going to have to run out of that paper space. So then he's archiving over the years into a whole different room, whereas an archive for me means an extra click on a folder. So I think that the value starts showing that, and really the proof is in the doing here from the fact that when you're in a meeting and somebody brings up some information that may have been presented in another meeting, something you may not have needed, I can pull up any of my documentation at any point in time and be in control of that information, where somebody with paper would maybe have to go back to their office, go back, whatever it is, pull that piece of paper, then go, oh, I got it now. Well, we're in a digital age, and information has to be available quickly. So I think we ended this on a couple drawbacks and advantages that we saw from our standpoint. And Mark, I think you were going to cover the drawbacks.
Yeah, so, obviously we just talked about, one of the drawbacks is those paper people, and it's natural for them to print that document and hand it to you. So, just like Steve said, some of those tricks of scanning it and giving them the paper back, just to kind of show them, hey, I really would like this electronically, to kind of help make that move, at least so they understand from the perspective that you're coming from is you're going digital. Obviously batteries, everything's going to be on a device, so you're going to have a charged phone, a charged tablet, a charged laptop, so making sure you have that access, whether it's batteries or whatever you need. And one of the great tools is those USB battery packs. Those work really great. Stereotype on your device, that's one I always bring up to Steve. Is, you go into a meeting and it's the norm or it's okay for you to write down notes on a piece of paper. But as soon as you get your laptop or your tablet out and you start using it and taking notes, that stereotype or that perception comes in that you're emailing, you're surfing the web, you're not working or focusing on the meeting. So overcoming that could be one of the drawbacks. Connectivity, It's not always a big thing because you can take notes on your app. As soon as you find a connection, it will sync across. But there are some different limitations. If you've got a OneDrive folder or a shared folder that hasn't synced yet, you do have to have that. Trust and backup. You're putting everything into digital format. It's a cloud service. It's a hard drive. So you got to have trust that you're backing up and you have multiple locations so you don't lose that information. Then obviously security is one, so that way you're making sure that your device is secure. And then the glitch. There's always going to be a little glitch here, a little glitch there. Something didn't transfer, something didn't save.
On the advantages, we covered a lot of those, but you have all your documents with you at all times. You significantly reduce the office clutter. Your desk looks clean, more productive. Searching, you can search by name, by file folder, by topic, by stuff in the documents, out of the documents. It's so much more robust. Versioning, I have a version 1, a version 2. I don't have to have multiple documents with multiple pieces of paper in a file folder. It's all put up right in front. Hey, I gave you that document, Mark, and you're like, no, you didn't. Well, if I have that electronic transfer, I can show I did. Just proving that, I took care of you when I said I took care of you. Disaster recovery, right? If you have a fire in your office, you're done. Yep. Paper. Digitally, hopefully it's in the cloud, right? Yeah, backup. Definitely talked about that. Distribution. Hey, I got that file. You need a copy of that? Let me send it to you. Versus a copy machine, photocopy. Here's another piece of paper. Now I've lost that piece of paper. Digital distribution. I put security, too. If I have a piece of paper laying on my desk, you can walk in there, take that piece of paper, and now you have it, right? Yep. That's my security measure. Where hopefully digitally you have encryption and different levels of encryption that can protect your documents. The image that you're advanced in your technology as a company and that you're working to be more productive as a company because you're using the assets available to you digitally. And then the improved productivity of having everything available to you in a well-organized form. So that's what we have for everybody today on our fastest 16 minutes. And we're going to go ahead and see if Tricia has any great questions for us today.
We do have one question so far. I will give everybody more time if they want to put some more questions in there that we can answer for you. In the meantime, I do want to remind you that our next webinar will be on security, titled Somebody's Watching You. It'll be Tech Talk on August the 19th. So all of you can look for that email invitation to come out. The question we have is, does OneNote require a fee if you're using it on an iPad and a desktop?
It does not. There is no fees associated to OneNote anymore. Now, let me be clear, that's recently changed, 90 days,
Probably
6 months, somewhere in that range. So that used to not be true. There used to be some real limitations on that. So there's no limitations. You can run it on Android, iOS, Windows Phone, Windows 8, Windows 7. Go to OneNote.com if I remember properly. You download it at no charge, or your Play Store, your Android, your App Store, and the iTunes. All available for free. And one thing that most people don't know, Mark, is there's 2 versions of OneNote for Windows 8. There's a touch-enabled version that's a little easier for the touch, a little easier to use when you're mobile, when you're using your big fingers. And then there's a PC, more keyboard-oriented, mouse-oriented version of OneNote. And I don't know, Mark, it's your opinion, but I couldn't live without OneNote. I find, it's a core at what I do here. I have probably 12 different notebooks running at OneNote at any one time. You and I share one. Yep. We're constantly using that information. Pictures, you can draw all messages, you can draw circles, you can send email directly from Outlook into OneNote. Very robust program. And this is where you and I have to look at Tricia, that she has OneNote and she's currently brought a notepad into this meeting, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't converted her quite yet.
Yes. Tricia, you have any more questions for us?
Well, not after that. Actually, we have another one. You were talking about fax servers and distributing faxes. Can you elaborate more on this topic?
Basically, there's a lot of different applications out there. There's online services. So basically, from a fax server standpoint, you can implement your own fax server, or you could pay, like a monthly fee and do a fax server as a service. And most of that really is receiving faxes. You assign an email address, and so when a fax comes into a specific phone number, it gets forwarded to an email address. A lot of times in the office, you'll just designate one person to be the fax administrator. So they'll receive the email and forward it on to wherever it needs to go. If it's junk, it gets deleted, and you're not wasting the toner, the paper, and all that. What's really nice, if you get a larger operation or you have multi-fax lines, you can actually separate those out. So specific fax lines can go to specific emails, which works really great. From a sending standpoint, it really just is going to depend on the device you have or the service you have, and it shows up like a printer. So if I have a document that I want to fax to somebody, I go File, Print. I scroll through my printer list and I pick the fax server. It'll pop up a dialog box. You type in, the fax number that you want to send it to, and click Print, and it will send it out via fax, and the fax machine on the other end will receive it.
And cost can be a big concern for people, Mark. And I mean, Nex-Tech has a service that receives faxes for people, and it's $3 a month, right, for a line. I mean, $3 a month. Are you kidding me? To get rid of your fax machine? It seems very reasonable from that standpoint. And then you don't have to worry about any of the other technologies behind it, and you can eliminate a phone line potentially in that, because you don't have to feed that phone line number in the fax machine. And remember, the other question that people have is, I have this piece of paper in front of me here now, and I need to fax it. Well, in the past, I would stick it in that fax machine, which really was just a scanner, and then I would have to go ahead and type the numbers in. Whereas now I can use my phone and take a picture of it, which then converts either a scan program or just a picture, right, and do it that way, the print way. So it really eliminates a lot of things. But Mark, also, I think it's no secret we're in sales. So we get a lot of orders in via fax still. In fact, it's dwindling. But how do you like dealing with those emails? Because now they're digital versus a piece of paper.
Yeah, it just makes it so much easier. So we get, we have a fax administrator. So when a fax comes in, it gets just forwarded to my email, so I can save it. Like we talked about, digital organization. I can save it into a specific folder. I can go back and reference it later. So if there's a question or something, we have, a signed contract or whatever it is, information that needed to be sent, and it was faxed. I can save that and store it very nice and easily, and it doesn't have that approach where it prints through a fax machine, you take it over, you scan it in, and then you save it to your documents. It just eliminates that step.
Excellent. Tricia?
We don't have any more questions, but I wanted to let everybody know that this webinar will be in our archive section on the nextech.com/free webinar site within about 24 hours, so you can rewatch that. But also, for the first time, Mark and Steve are sitting in front of cameras today. So we did record this, and it's going to be available on Nex-Tech Channel 100 in the next upcoming weeks. So we'll announce to everybody that's going to happen as well, and we'll continue to do that with a few of our webinars for you all. With that, I'll thank everybody for attending and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.